Hi, Raul.
Mike, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm so
Well,
excited for you.
thanks, man.
Yeah,
Uh, just let me introduce you first. This is Rolston Miller, bass player extraordinaire from Vicky Von Vicky, formerly Trains of Winter, and now you contributed to this thing, my solo stuff. Before we get into my solo stuff, let's talk about Vicky Von Vicky has a new song coming out in two
yeah,
weeks,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
I always call it the Paul song, but it is he led this. This is his song, really, right? We both contributed. It's a little bit different for us, but I think it's some people will enjoy it. I think a lot of people will. It's called,
Well,
what's it called?
it's called Cuba Libre, and I think what's fascinating about it is both of you guys who are obviously very creative people, in a very similar period of time, got motivated to do some things which were really a lot different
Yeah,
in some ways, and also, from my perspective, had some similarities in other ways too.
sure.
It didn't particularly shock me that you did an album of this stuff because I know how much I was impacted and influenced by the music of the '80s, and I'll talk about that later. But I of course, like, when Paul came with this song, it just didn't surprise me. I was like, yep, given what Paul's listened to and how he puts music together in his brain, I can see this. So, anyways, you guys went some very different directions, sort of around the same time.
Yeah,
You put out a little more volume. His was definitely a labor of love, and as Igor says, all good artwork is never ends. It's only abandoned. So,
yeah. And I mean,
anyways,
Paul does have aspirations for more, so it's not like he just stopped on this. He has a lot of
no,
other things he
no.
wants to do musically.
Yeah, it's good. And I mean, it's funny. I mean, I think we could be pretty open about this. There was
Yeah,
definitely we had some tension surrounding all the music, and not like it. Sometimes it was a little bit hot. I'd say hot for us, but
yeah,
I was kind of sitting around going like, I thought of that scene in the first Star Wars movie where the C-3PO, the robot, was beating Chewie the Wookiee, and Chewie was getting all upset at that chess game, and
yeah,
Han
yeah.
said, just let the Wookiee win.
Yeah, that's right.
I kind of felt like,
Yeah,
okay, Mike goes and plays a whole bunch of music and expresses himself creatively. It's a muscle that gets exercised. I honestly believe that people come back stronger when they do that, and felt
sure.
the same thing for Paul, which is like, go work your chops out, play a different style of music. Like,
Yeah,
Paul was sitting in on a bunch of Afro-Cuban stuff on Saturday night, and from like a bass player's
yeah,
perspective, I'm like, couldn't be anything better for time and rhythm. So
yeah.
I think it's great that you guys have been getting to stretch your wings like that, so to speak.
Let's talk about now your contribution to the album here, Melted Wings. I basically did all the tracks, and then I was like, wait a sec, like this song is missing something, and that was the Fire Inside, right? And I'm
Yeah.
like, I think it can do a bass. I think we need a bass part in there. And that's when I kind of said to you, hey, would you mind playing bass, right? And do you remember what I did as well? I put in Cheer for the Deer
Yeah.
on purpose. I put it in there in the
Yeah.
same folder that I shared with you. And
Yeah.
you're like, what is this song, Mike? Because I was like, if he likes it, then I'll get him to play on it and we'll put it on. So those
Well,
are the two that you did, right? And they were
that's
fun.
right. That's right. And I'll be honest with you. When you first put that music to me,
Yeah.
I was just like, I absolutely have to write a part for this. And remember what I said was, I think the deal was this: is I said, hey, can I write a part for this, or parts? And you can take it or leave it. Like, it's either going to work or it doesn't work. And again, I would have loved to have been in the conversation with you and Lana and Nick about the home setups,
Right.
because this is the greatest thing about the era we're living in for music, is that when we first started recording music in the '80s, and that's when I did.
Yeah.
People don't know that 10 minutes of reel-to-reel tape new was $500. 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Remember us buying used reels of tape for $250, right? 10
Yeah.
minutes. So everyone's wondering, like, well, why were the songs only 4.5 minutes back then? Like, two per tape, like,
Yeah.
anyways.
Yeah.
So amazing now with this technology. Literally, you email me parts, and I play until I'm blue in the face or happy, or I give you different versions. It's really quite something. So, but one of the things, and I actually never told you this, is that one of the cool things about getting to play on this synth-based music was that over the years, all the way back from Trains of Winter, even back to when I played metal bands, all the way to now,
Yeah.
you as a bass player have to fit into a really you need to know, to be good at bass, you need to know where to fit into the registry. And it actually took me a long time for that. It took me a long time. And I want to say that I think I missed it most of the time when we played in Trains of Winter. And it was just for lack of, I wish I hung around sound engineers more, just to understand.
I don't think you missed it there. I don't think you missed it. I just think maybe you've changed a little bit. It's evolved.
And maybe it's a bit of mixing and a bit of sound too, like I now know, like I could walk into a studio and say, hey, Nick, here's my sound. This is how I do it. I want this out of the amp, this out of a direct. I want this mic'd, and like he could take it to rules. But
for people who don't know, Trains of Winter was a part of the Kingston scene back in the early 90s. So that's around when the Mahones, Tragically Hip, all those bands are coming out. And we kind of sort of vaguely knew some of them. So it was like an early 90s grind.
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Yeah. But anyways, back to the parts of the album, what I knew was with this kind of music, I knew I was going to get to play a little bit more of that mid-rangey, gritty bass sound that really was a constant underpinning of almost all of the like a lot of the music I listened to in the 80s. And I don't want to go on too long about this, but if you want to start adding them up, you guys already mentioned like, New Order is one. But like I think about bands like New Model RE. I think about bands like Simple Minds. Simple Minds had a massive influence on me. U2, Big Country. They all had these bass sounds that like they worked for them, and I always wanted a little bit of that. Even Mike Mills from REM, right? There was a sound there, and I never, we played different music, so I never got to do this. So this one, I just knew, I was like, oh, wait a second. I hear the part in my head. I know where I can fit in here. And then the beautiful part about, the digital modeling now is that I found exactly the 80s amps and speakers I wanted to use. And that's what I recorded it with. So really I was so excited to play on it. But when you said Cheer for the Deer, I was like, this is it. And I don't know if you'll appreciate this or not, man, but immediately really what came to my head was Rush's La Villa Strangiato. Like, that's what I came to mind. And I never got to do it.
I thought of right away, Metal, Pink Floyd. I thought something like one of these days, I thought a little bit.
Yeah.
Like that when your bass comes right in, I thought, I mean, we can even play it now if you want, just to see to show.
Well, again, it was just such a pleasure to get to interact with you, first of all, in a very different way. And I think you and I both agree that what Nick said, the energy in a room is always amazing. But this was a much different and more cerebral process, and turns out shockingly amazing. I don't know. So,
I mean, I wouldn't do it all the time. Like I said to Nick, I'd rather be in a studio sometimes. But sometimes if you want to create and that's all you can do, you do it. You do it with the tools you have available, right? So
and that's one of the things I don't think that again, if people have played and particularly played live, you understand that. But like after playing with you and Paul now for essentially 30 years on and off, like I can look at Paul and I can look at you and I know what's going down. Body English says this is working or not working. And but at the same time, like I said, when you have the luxury of time and a recording tape that never ends, it can lead for some pretty crazy things. But I will say this is that I understand how challenging this would be to play live. But our other bandmate, Tom Nesbitt, has an amazing synth and keyboard player that he works with, who he said would be very game for this kind of approach.
That's enticing. I like that.
Someone might be able to take on that side of the live production synth sounds, which would be pretty exciting for me. So I kind of envisioned it as a one night only situation, but
how about we play that right now? How about I share the sounds? It's going to go here. Computer audio. I'm going to play that song. I'm going to go to the album.
And what are you going to go? Are you going to do part 1 and 2?
I'm going to try to go right where you do your thing. I think it's around the 240.
No, that's good. These are the arpeggiated synth moment here is absolutely like
here it comes. I'm thinking Pink Floyd. Hey, right there. Look at that bass. crazy.
So good. I'm sure Peter Hook from New Order right now is probably trying to sue me for sound infringement.
Probably yes. Pause it here. Just gonna pause it there. You do a lot of cool stuff though in the next part too, which I like. You're like going, you know, all the little. I love it. I love the little arpeggios, all the little stuff you're doing.
Well, you know, Mike, I was so excited for, and particularly in the outro here when it calms down and it starts and it finishes. It finishes with the classical parts.
Yeah.
And I didn't tell you this, but I would have loved to have also overdubbed some more classical guitar in there, because
I know,
you know, that's my background, and that's almost all my bass technique really comes from well, basically classical guitar and listening to Rush for the most part. But I just love the opportunity sometimes to just sit back, holding notes or space, and then the parts at the end was great. And I don't know, it's something that people really realize about you. There's particularly when it comes to acoustic stuff, or even a classical or finger picking play, Mike is quite technically prodigious. I watched him slash through quite a bit of like applied music at university, and like I played classical guitar, but like I couldn't touch the stuff you played, and it was fun to get to see to do that, because you haven't done that for a long time either, you know. So anyways, it's fun to play those things.
Fire Inside. I want to play Fire Inside again.
Very cool. Yeah,
we're gonna go to that. And then a couple more questions, and then I'll move on to my pals from Quebec. Let me just get this going.
Is that the Denani Posse?
Yes, give me the Denani Posse. Here we go. This is Fire Inside. I might fast forward, but you're right in this right at the beginning anyways.
Yeah, this song's pretty tight. It's not that long.
No. And it's quite different than the other stuff. It's very kind of high school stage band.
The vocals are so good. We have Buddy Holly.
All right. We can listen. I can listen to all the album, but I don't want to bore everybody.
I know. Well, Mike,
not bore, but you know, it's not the kind of live setting. So
now, and it's always classic though, and people always ask me about this, Mike, because so when it comes into the chorus, immediately, it's like always there's that like, and there's a little bit of the Pixies. It's always Black. He's always circling somewhere in the back of your brain.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if you know that, but like every time I play people music that you've written or that I've actually played on, someone goes like, who's the Pixies fan? And it's like, ironically, not actually me. Like I really appreciate what they do. but I was just into a slightly different kind of music at the time when they like, and I've seen them live, like truly creative geniuses, but like, it's always funny. And I love that move from that chorus to that really open, bright, from the verse to the open, bright chorus. It's a wonderful transition. It sounds so
I
good.
don't really see the Pixies influence when I do songs, but I understand that that is my influence. I mean, for me, they kind of opened doors a long time ago. I got into it. It was sort of about, don't worry about this stuff, but do some strange things and see what happens, right?
And you know what happened with those guys, and what I needed to understand was, I think a lot of the times Sonic Youth was making decisions to play dissonantly that were sometimes not. I'm not going to say, I don't know. I wasn't in the recording room. I never played with them, but like, what I can tell you is that everything that Frank Black does that sounds like a mistake or dissonance is intent. There's intent there. And there's a reason for it. And I've seen it pop up in our music, and I roll with it now, and it's quite wonderful because it does make for some interesting like conflict, you know.
I'll tell you one thing that I have from the Pixies that is meant, like, it's something I think about. It's also what Nirvana did. If you look at their songs, they do things in threes, Pixies. Whether it's 3/4 time, or they repeat a chorus 3 times or a verse. And Nirvana did that as well. Most people do it like in couplets, like 2 or 4, but they did 3s, which I really kind of think is neat. You know, it's kind of like, it's giving yourself a different kind of feel for some reason. I don't know why, but that's the only thing I consciously do with songs sometimes.
Yeah, and it's funny. I mean, we talked a little bit about it when we were chatting today, but it's just always so interesting how your past influences, they leak out in different ways that sometimes obviously you see and sometimes you hear. And I've always said I would love, if I had a superpower, my superpower would be to be able to hear what other people hear when they listen to music. Because like, I am just like, I hear one thing, but I think everyone just hears a little bit differently. And
people hear things differently for sure. I think so. There's things that you isolate to, right? So Hey, Raul, I gotta say, I'm gonna move on to
absolutely.
But I really appreciate you coming on. And
well, Mike, I can't thank you enough for letting me hop on the coattails here. It was a lot of fun, and please don't ever hold yourself back on moving to any music genre. I'm around if you need me, and I will say to people that I do hope that we have been talking about it, and if we can get out of this just a little further. We hope that Vicky Von Vicky will be back to rehearsing and writing again soon. We hope to be on the stage sometime this year. So
I hope so.
And also, I'm going to get the synth player in contact with you. Okay.
Okay. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Mike. Have an amazing night. Take care. Cheers.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.